Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Kent City Council meeting for October 5th. I'm not sure how we made it to October, but here we are, October 5th, 2021. If you would all please rise and join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Kim, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph?
Here.
Council President Troutner?
Here.
Councilmember Boyce?
Here.
Councilmember Fincher?
Here.
Councilmember Kaur?
Here.
Councilmember Larmer?
Here.
Councilmember Michaud?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas? Here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. The next item on our agenda is the approval. Are there any changes from council, administration, or staff? All right. Seeing no changes, a motion would be in order to approve the agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda this evening.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item number 4, public communications. We have a lot of great things this evening under public communications. The first item is King County Councilmember Reagan Dunn, here to provide us with his State of the County address. Councilmember Dunn comes and reports out to the council on an annual basis, and we're excited to have him this evening via Zoom. Good evening, Councilmember Dunn.
Thank you, Mayor Ralph and council members, for having me. I appreciate that. Kim is going to, I think, run the slideshow, so maybe we get that slide up. It's my privilege to hit at least every city council in my district, all 8 of them, at least every year, to go through what's sort of happening with the county. So I'll give a presentation. If the mayor's comfortable, I'm happy to answer questions. So first slide, Kim. All right. Let's go. Is that the first one or is that the second? Yep, there you go. Okay, great. Go back. Go ahead and go for it. There it is. Perfect. Okay, so let's cover the major issues of the day, and there are a lot these days, but we'll focus on the COVID case counts, the COVID numbers right now that we are seeing in King County. This is from Seattle King County Department of Public Health. You'll see that we appear to have reached the peak of the Delta variant a couple, 3 weeks back, and are on the decline, which is good, particularly with respect to hospitalizations are coming down pretty quickly, which is good. But still, we're definitely not out of the woods. And what I'm beginning to hear, and there's not consensus on this, is that we may just have to live with COVID moving forward. Perhaps the intense vaccination effort will yield some results, but I'm not sure of that for some reasons I'll show you here in a second. Next slide. If you look at in the past 30 days, the risk of infection is clearly much higher among the unvaccinated. And it's particularly striking with respect to hospitalizations and deaths. But if you look under positive cases, fully 32% of individuals who are vaccinated are returning positive numbers. So that is something to remember as this goes forward. Just because you're vaccinated does not mean necessarily that you are safe. And we are hearing some horror stories regarding individuals who are vaccinated who actually aren't able to survive COVID. So just bear that in mind. Next slide, please. Here's the vaccination update. Our stated goal was to get 70% or more adults. Those are the raw vaccination numbers. You'll see that we're at about 86% countywide, which is a really striking and outstanding number. I'm proud of that. It puts us in the top 1 or 2 highest large counties in the United States in terms of vaccination numbers, which is really good. And I think a measure of the local and state cooperation that's occurring amongst our jurisdictions. Next slide. But as is frequently the case, South King County struggles the most. And we all know, representing areas of South King County, that, teen pregnancies, obesity, autism, you name it, including lower vaccination rates, frequently are a challenge in South King County. And so you'll see that Auburn, Kent, Federal Way, about 78% 8%, not quite 80, almost 80, which is still really good nationally. I just want to make sure we're clear, are vaccinated, but we still got some work to do. We will continue to do the vaccination effort and push moving forward to get those numbers up as high as we can. Next slide. A lot of work here by your group and ours, the economic response to COVID-19. I serve on the County Council's budget leadership team, and you'll see some of your colleagues there in that picture. We are doing everything we can to move that money through from the federal government down to nonprofit sector, to local governments to assist with COVID-19. We are on our 9th supplemental COVID. So we do biennial budgeting at the county. So we usually do one budget every 2 years, maybe a supplemental slid in there. We've already done 9, or we're in the process of 9 supplementals, plus a biennial budget, plus a couple additional supplementals. So it's been busy. We are voting on a lot of money, putting an awful lot of dollars out into the community. You'll see some of the breakdowns, legal system, public health, vaccination efforts, economic recovery. We were there not too long ago at Kent Ridge High School to deliver $25,000 to the Kent Robotics Club, which is why I look so tall, because those are young people there next to me, still in school. All right, next slide. A lot of work here right now on eviction prevention and rental assistance. You'll notice that the Seattle Times came out here a month or so ago and reported a striking fact to me that King County had only distributed about 4.5% of the $145 million for rental assistance to tenants and landlords who needed that. By contrast, Snohomish County and Pierce County were around 60 and 55% respectively. We're at 4.5%. I sounded the alarm, put legislation forward to expedite and streamline the process, and spent a little bit of money to get a lot more money out. King County has now simplified the program and expediting it, and so now we are out to 41.4 million. It's still not nearly enough, but it's improving rapidly. This is really, besides getting people vaccinated, I think the rental assistance is probably the next most important thing we can do so that people can stay in their homes, stay safe, and don't become a statistic homeless out in the streets because we didn't do our job as a county getting the dollars out the door. So I wanted you to see that we're at least making efforts to improve the process. Next slide. The King County Regional Homelessness Authority continues to move forward. As you know, they hired Mark Dones, who's the CEO right now, and he's in the process of putting together the staffing model for the office and moving closely very soon here to regional plans as well as more major policy implementation ideas. So there's going to be a lot of work. I think it's a real uphill battle for the Homeless Authority, but my hope is that we can make it successful with a lot of interagency and regional cooperation to get people off the streets and into housing and other wraparound services that are important. Next slide. Been working on a lot of pieces of legislation. Some of it's been pretty public, some of it hasn't been. We had some very significant safety concerns right there next door to our courthouse at what City Hall Park is what it's known as, and including a murder and a few other really problematic things. One of our courthouse employees was sexually assaulted in a bathroom. So it's not good. We are in the process. You'll hear about it tomorrow. Jeannie Colwells and I are showing bipartisan support for perhaps acquiring that about a half acre of land from the city of Seattle so that we can maybe keep a closer eye on it, use it for better purposes, and be in a position to use sheriff's deputies to police it. At the same time we're doing that, we are working to create homeless outreach teams that are designed to connect with people in encampments like City Hall Park and help them get connected to the wraparound services that we provided. I think we were pretty successful in some ways anyway in getting folks out of that park, at least on the short term, and into some services. I proposed legislation for clearing homeless encampments, the same principle, using outreach teams, getting folks into wraparound services. We can do that, modeled after what the city of Portland here recently did. So That's still in committee, and obviously it'll be a hotly controversial topic, but we'll see where it lands. At least I think it's important to start bringing up the discussion of what we are going to do on a long term with respect to some of these public spaces that have homeless camps within them. Next slide, please. Supporting addiction recovery and mental health. That's an issue close to my heart, as many of you know. Hosted this spring King County's first conference on addiction and recovery. 200 people attended that. I'm really proud of that. And we did some legislation to protect virtual recovery meetings, like AA meetings. Everything went online during the pandemic. So when people would go to these 12-step programs in person, usually they could feel pretty assured that there was confidence. Then you go online and people can log in. You can have disgruntled employees who want to see what's going on, or ex-spouses or whatever. We created some protections for those under law, which I think is a really cool sort of first in the nation kind of thing. Also been working hard to provide funding for these recovery services. I think it's part and parcel with it's helping to solve our homelessness problem, is getting housing and then also putting people into a treatment that they need. So I just wanted to flag that for you. That's me handing out shirts. My wife, Ashley, and I were handing out shirts at Recovery for All Mariners game, which we almost won, but not quite. So we're not in the playoffs. Next slide, please. Public safety, this is bad news, unfortunately. You'll see those graphs. We have spiking shootings and homicide rates. The homicide rate over 2 years is up 86%. We have a 30-year high in crime generally. Shootings are way up. We're actually on pace to, that 95, we're on pace to be over 100. So, yeah, it's more than that now, unfortunately. So it's not good. We have significant problems. Lots of people ask me, why is crime going up? But there are a lot of different reasons. COVID-19 is one of them. Defunding of our police departments is another. The lack of good community policing and funding for the prosecutor's office is another. Housing stability is yet another. And so we have to all get to, it's not one single source, of course, it's a lot of different sources conflating together that we all have to get behind and find a solution for. So that's the not good news on public safety. Next slide. Real quick, we had a briefing today on the Executive's Public Safety Advisory Committee, PSAC, Citizen Advisory Committee, on what we're going to do with the Sheriff's Office now that the voters have decided to make it an appointed post, appointed by the exec and confirmed by the King County Council. They went through it today. Essentially, they're a little behind schedule, which I understand why, a few months behind schedule, which is only problematic because the elected sheriff leaves office on December 31st. It'd be nice to have a new leader in the office. I don't think that's going to happen. Probably late winter, early spring, I'm guessing, where we will have somebody who's going to come on. They are going to use the title sheriff as opposed to like director of community safety or something like that. It'll be sheriff, and it will be a sworn law enforcement officer, but it doesn't mean it can't also be an activist who's a sworn law enforcement officer, right? I sort of kind of see a big major city chief with a diverse background who not only is willing to accept reforms within the policing and the criminal system, but also willing to advocate for his or her employees and make the necessary work to keep the community safe. So I'm optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that we'll move in the right direction there, and I think the committee generally is on the right track. Next slide, please. A lot of public safety legislation going on right now. You look at the Seattle Times right now, 350 of the Seattle police officers have not submitted their vaccine cards. And I think there's around 100 King County Sheriff's deputies that haven't. That worries me a little bit. So we need to watch that to make sure we aren't losing law enforcement as a result of these mandates, creating big holes in our public safety infrastructure. I've worked on a couple of items at the county officer wellness program to help them. I mean, being a cop is a super stressful job. We need to provide them the emotional support they need. I proposed, and we hired a recruiter position to help fill it's now 56 vacancy positions. I hope it's not 75 or 100 because folks don't want to deal with the vaccine issue. So hopefully we don't have that to fill. But we got a recruiter, proposed a hate crime hotline, which we're working on collaboratively, I think, with the community. So a lot of work in public safety that will nibble around the edges of some of these problems. Next slide. Investing in Kent. Oh, there's your mayor again. This is a check to Vine Maple Place, a wonderful nonprofit organization that does transitional housing for young families, mothers, mostly single. It's a sober living facility there in Kent, it's kind of by the Golden Steer. And there's some other grants we've given to other organizations in and around Kent. Next slide, please. So a lot going on between the pandemic, between law enforcement and crime challenges with respect to homelessness, all moving very quickly and changing a lot. So that's kind of what I have been working on, and I'm happy if the mayor wants to take a few, happy to entertain any questions or comments or feedback that we can take to make the county's work as it conjoins with Kent more effective.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. Councilmember Thomas, you have a question.
Thanks, Reagan. Les here. How you doing? Good?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks, Councilmember.
Good. Hey, on the shootings, especially the murders that you had posted up there, how many were gang related? Do you have an answer to that, perhaps?
I don't, except to say that a significant number are gang related. I did propose the restoration of the gang unit in King County. That got defunded, unfortunately, a couple of years ago.
You used the word significant amount. Would you say a majority amount?
I don't know. I don't know. It's in there somewhere. It's probably close to 50%.
All right. Thank you.
We'll get back to you though, Les. Thanks.
All right. Other questions for Councilmember Dunn? Okay, I am not seeing any. I want to say thank you so much for the work that you are doing on behalf of South King County and in Kent as well. And we are very, very grateful for you taking the time to provide us with the report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ralph, and thanks for your leadership and the council's leadership down in Kent.
Have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
All right, moving on the council agenda, we are at public recognition. The first item is Employee of the Month. So each month, the employees at the City of Kent get together and they provide nominations for one of their coworkers who has shown outstanding leadership, commitment to the city's mission, vision, values, and goals, whether it be through their day-to-day service or through a special project. I am very pleased to announce that our October 2021 Employee of the Month is Julie Stengel from our Parks Department. Julie joined the city as a day camp counselor on June 15th, 1987. From March until June of 1989, she served as Parks admin intern, and she then worked as a sports official and became a Parks program coordinator on April 26, 1993. Julie became the Parks facility program manager on January 1st, 2002. It was noted in Julie's nomination that she lives by the motto of "It takes a village" by constantly trying to make connections for partnerships to expand and improve the delivering of programs. She works diligently to make sure we have what we need. That is such a true statement. She was also nominated because due to COVID-19, during the 15 months of working at home and not being able to deliver usual programs, Julie was there to continue to encourage and be sure to constantly remind her team how proud she was of them. She opened new doors for her division, continuously introduced them to new ways of looking at things, and kept her team in the loop through her open and honest communication style. She is the core that kept them together and moving forward. Think about all of the things that we normally do, and during COVID not being able to, and Julie and her team really stepped up for our community and thinking of unique ways to provide those services. Julie has also successfully earned a variety of National Park and Recreation grant funding that has allowed her team to conduct health and wellness programming for kids and families across the community. Julie has shown exemplary leadership in guiding her team through pandemic challenges, budget reductions, furloughs, and a gradual return to programming and normalcy. It is for this and so many other reasons that she was selected for this month's award. Julie continuously embraces our values, and we celebrate her as October's Employee of the Month. Congratulations, Julie Stengel. Very proud of the work that she does. All right. Speaking of return to normalcy, I am very, very excited to have Kayla Matheny and Tyler Morrison here this evening from Torclift for our 11th, and our partnership with them, their 11th annual Turkey Challenge. If you guys want to come up to the podium, I'm going to read the proclamation, and we'll ask you to say a few words. All right. Whereas the City of Kent recognizes the importance of proper nutrition for every citizen and that many families in our community are faced with food shortages. And whereas the Kent Food Bank distributes between 1,200 and 1,500 Thanksgiving baskets to Kent families and the need for donated food is greater than ever. Whereas, through the generosity of Torclift Central employees, October 7, 2021 marks the kickoff of the 11th annual Kent Turkey Challenge that will run through November 15th. Whereas the employees of Torclift Central and Kent challenge all local businesses to join them in collecting canned goods and frozen turkeys that will be distributed by the food bank this holiday season. And whereas Thanksgiving baskets will ensure families here in Kent that are dependent upon the food bank will receive enough food for their holiday dinner. And whereas through said generosity of our community, the Kent Food Bank will be able to increase the number of families receiving holiday baskets and ensure the quantities of food are adequate. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim October 7th through November 15th, 2021 as the 11th annual Kent Turkey Challenge in Kent, Washington, and encourage all residents and local businesses to accept the challenge from Torclift Central employees by collecting frozen turkeys and canned goods for the ever-increasing number of families in need here in our community.
Thank you.
There's a proclamation. Thank you so much. We do a really quick picture, then I'll have you say a few words.
Yeah, of course.
You have a fan club.
All right. Well, I know you introduced myself and Kayla. Kayla wasn't able to make it tonight, but you do have me. So, my name's Kyler, and I've been with Torclift for nearing about 5 years now. And I was given the opportunity to come here and speak on behalf of the team. And so, we're thrilled to be here, and we're so thankful for the support that you guys offer. And each year the City of Kent endorses the Kent Turkey Challenge with this proclamation. And, it's critical for the success, and it also marks the kickoff for this event as well. So, and my experience with Torclift, even since I first started, was that Torclift is always trying to, help people whenever we can. And that's not just for people on the team, but people in the community as well. And when we first started the Turkey Challenge, we had about 20 businesses participating in the event. And that number has evolved into more than 75 businesses on average each year. And, we've raised more than $175,000 and 66,000 pounds of food over the past decade. And 100% of those proceeds do go to the food bank. And, when I say we did this, I am talking about the city, the community, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Kent Reporter. So, I remember my first year helping and just seeing how excited everybody was at the food bank. And, it made me realize just how, excited and how willing people were to help. It's an amazing program, and it's all, it's none of it's mandatory. So it's truly incredible to see how many people are ready to jump in when there's an opportunity to do something good. During our last Turkey Challenge, we had a goal of 10,000 pounds of food, and we actually beat that goal by 1,700 pounds. So, again, it's such an incredible thing, and we're going to continue to strive and work towards this worthy cause with the help of the community and the support from the City of Kent. It's truly amazing what our community can accomplish when we come together, and, it's the community that makes all the difference, And we're truly grateful, again, for the support, and we thank you for the proclamation. And I'd also like to thank all the businesses who participate in the event, as well as the Kent Food Bank for everything that they do. So thank you.
Thank you very much to the employees of Torclift Central and then all of the community that's going to join in. This has been, as you heard, a very, very successful program in taking care of so many Kent families. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We are going to continue the theme of celebrating our community and taking care of each other. The next proclamation is for Celebrate Community Day. So whereas the aim of Celebrate Community has brought to fruition a joint initiative of the 4 major volunteer service organizations, which launched the year 2021 with a focus on local community service. And whereas Celebrate Community is a worldwide effort supported by the organizations Kiwanis International, Lions Club International, Seroptimus International, and Rotary International. And whereas Celebrate Community encourages clubs to reach out to one another to work together on projects that improve and benefit local communities. And whereas Celebrate Community can make a difference by creating a positive change in our community and the world. And whereas local Kent service-based organizations have partnered together for the Green River Trail Cleanup Day on October 16th, and are hopeful this will lead to more frequent collaboration, fellowship, and projects among our service clubs. Now therefore I, Dana Ralph, Mayor of Kent, do hereby proclaim October 16th, 2021 as Celebrate Community Day in Kent, Washington. May this joint effort instill pride in our city's volunteers for all their accomplishments and for the impact they create to truly make a difference in all of our lives. So I'm reading this and accepting it on behalf of all of our council members and city employees and community members all around that are members of our service clubs. We saw an amazing coming together during COVID of Kiwanis and Rotary, Lions, all of those clubs working together for a common goal. And this project on October 16th really helps show that to the community, that our members of our service clubs are coming together. So want to say thank you to everyone that will be volunteering on the 16th, and thank you to everyone that has made service in our community a part of their regular routine. So I think, I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to call out Kiwanis. Sorry, Councilmember Core. And I know Councilmember Boyce was a Rotary member, but we've got 3 Kiwanians sitting right here. So thank you all. Oh, and Chief in the back. So there we go. We've got good numbers tonight, good representation. Thank you all very, very much. Before I move on to the next item on the agenda, I want to continue in the theme of service. So we had an event this morning called Battle of the Badges. You may remember us talking about, it's a competition that Officer Joel Makings and James from Grocery Outlet here in Kent started quite many months back. Officer Makings was on a call up at Grocery Outlet about a shoplift, was talking to the owner, and they really started talking about food insecurity in the city of Kent and what could be done for it. So they organized a competition between our police officers and firefighters to gather up food. So think like Grocery Market Sweep, or the name of that show where they go and they pick up all the groceries and that gets donated to the food bank. This morning, we had our first city versus city challenge. So it was Kent versus Auburn, and it was at the Auburn Grocery Outlet, benefiting both the Auburn Food Bank and the Kent Food Bank. So it was the police departments going head-to-head, fire departments, Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority and Valley Regional Fire Authority. And then the final round was mayor to mayor. So myself and Mayor Backus worked our way through the grocery store collecting items, and we ended up all in $2,500 worth of food being donated to each one of the food banks. So I have, I'm very, very proud of this. Here is our trophy. Kent won the competition today. Very proud of the work of our police department and firefighters, and then Mayor Backus and I decided to make it a cooperation. So we worked collectively to fill our baskets with the same amount of items. I think some of our teammates were a little bit anxious about that, but in the end it worked out. Kent walked away with the trophy, and we are already planning for the next event. So I want to say thank you to Grocery Outlet, both in Kent and Auburn, as well as Officer Makings and everyone that participated this morning, and really, really proud that Kent walked away with the trophy. So we'll be proudly displaying that here at City Hall as long as we can keep our hands on it. All right, on to some much more hard-earned awards. Tonight, there's a theme here, a little bit of hardware happening. Our multimedia and communications team works so hard to make sure that our meetings are broadcast and our social media is engaging and active, and there's just ways for people to connect with the city through their work. And you think about during the pandemic, was all that work was turned on its head. We had to think of new ways to connect and reach out to our community. Our communications and multimedia team has been collecting the awards over the last few weeks, and I want to read through some of the awards that they have received, and I have examples of their awards here. So bear with me while I read through this list because it's pretty impressive. So the 3 Cma Savvy Awards. The Savvy Awards are held in conjunction with 3 CMA's annual conference, recognizing outstanding local government achievement in communications, public sector marketing, and citizen government relationships. The Savvy salute skilled and effective city, county, agency, or district professionals who have creatively planned and carried out successful innovations in communications and marketing. 3 Cma accommodates local government organizations of all sizes and budget classes by judging entries in several different population groups, and more than 800 entries in 40 categories were received. So the City of Kent team took first place in the Let's Taco About the Census event. That was the pairing of the ability to take the census with a taco truck and a mask giveaway. We had great turnout, great connection with our community, won first place for that, as well as the mask pop-up giveaways. So all of those events we held over the last year, making sure that our residents had masks, hand sanitizer, and were able to just have that city pride in their masks. Second place was the video for our Shop with a Cop event. That's that annual event where we pair with, partner up with Kent Youth and Family Services and make sure that our kids get a Christmas event. So if you haven't seen that video, it's fabulous. And in third place, we got awards for photography for the water tower and our Kent Valley collateral. So all the work being done to market our Kent Valley. We're really excited and proud of the work that economic development is doing in conjunction with all of our teams to make sure that people know the Kent Valley is a fabulous place to locate a business. The next set of awards we have is NATOA, and that's the Government Programming Awards, and they're an annual award to recognize excellence in broadcast, cable, multimedia, and electronic programming produced by local government agencies. Categories cover a variety of programming, including community events, documentary, public affairs and public service, interview and talk show, performing arts, sports, election coverage, and children's issues. So the City of Kent in this year's awards took 3 first place awards of excellence, 5 second place awards of distinction, and 5 third place awards of honor. So in first place was the Mayor's Progress Report for 2020 and Brighter Days Ahead, City of Kent, and that was the video about what we went through as a community for COVID, as well as the Riverbend Golf Complex COVID-19 response. We had multiple awards in the second and third place category as well. Battle of the Badges was one of them, so that the events that we just talked about. Safety, the State of the City address from 2021, our social media, and the mask campaign as well. So just want to say thank you, and we're so proud of our teams that worked on all of these things, multimedia, communications, and I'm looking, you all can't see me, I'm looking at Michelle Wilmot here from our Economic and Community Development Department, absolutely. On our Kent Valley work. So you guys, we're working really hard to connect with the community, and it's award-winning, and we could not be more grateful for the work that our teams are doing. So congratulations and thank you. All right, I'm going to take these down so they don't fall off. All right, the next item on the agenda is community events. Council President Troutner, do you have any community events?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few things to share now that things are really moving and up and running at the SSO Shower Center. On October 9th, we have the Seattle Thunderbirds home opener. They also have another game on October 15th. And then October 16th, we have country concert, Cody Johnson with Easton Corbin and Ian Munsick. And then on October 19th, the Thunderbirds will play the Spokane Chiefs. And Disney on Ice will be coming October 27th through November 1st. So make sure you get your tickets for that. And then just a few other events looking into the future. The Harlem Globetrotters, which I know everyone looks forward to, will be coming to Shower on January 27th. So lots of things happening. And then as far as an upcoming city event, we have Hops and Cops, which is on October 14th. That's at 5:30 at Half Lion. So it gives you an opportunity to come meet with our officers and be able to ask questions and mingle with others. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to mention that the Spotlight Series this coming Saturday, the 9th, we have a performance, and it is Collision of Rhythm, which is a tap group, and they're also going to somehow work in music and juggling, and so looking forward to being completely entertained this coming Saturday. I checked this morning, and there's still some tickets available. We will be wearing masks and distance, and there weren't a lot of tickets, but there were still some. And to give you an example of the other types of music that you'll hear this season, there'll be Hawaiian music. Alpen Hong is back. The Drifters will be coming. There's mariachi music, there's Celtic music, folk music. Check out the Spotlight Series and see what you want to go hear. Have a good time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda is our Economic and Community Development Report, and joining us this evening is Bill Ellis.
Thank you, Mayor, and just want to start off and thank Michelle Wilmot again on their excellent work. That was a great award from the 3CMA for economic development tools for the Kent Valley website and all the marketing that's taken place with that. The judges really cited the participation of other municipalities, and Michelle's a big part of that. So, good evening, everyone. I have a few. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, that's on me now, isn't it? I'm going to remember this. So I think as we go forward in time here, I really, I'm keeping up with every update now, providing a little bit of economic data in our backyard. So this says Seattle, but the MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. So there's really only one way to look at this in terms of our economy, and that's regionally. And the first thing to note is that consumer spending has recovered overall. It's up 14% since COVID began. But that's being led by grocery and retail still. In entertainment, with music performances, live, recreation events, restaurants, hospitality, it's still down. Overall, spending's down 6.5% from about a year ago. So there's clearly a disconnect in our economy for certain types of jobs and certain types of industries versus the economy as a whole. So even though consumer spending has increased, it hasn't increased across the board. And so that kind of informs, as we were talking about the Flex Fund and whether or not people are still talking about, are we mitigating the pain for small businesses, or where are we in the recovery? It's worth considering this statistic as well, which is that now you see a series of ghosted out gray lines there at different dates and time. So we only have employment rate recovery updates up until August, right? So it's October now, so we're looking a little bit backward in time. But we can see clearly, even after vaccinations, the percent of those with below median wages, participation in the economy, is still down from where it was, and down significantly from a year and a half ago. So this is not just us. This is not just Kent. This is not just the city. It's not just the state. There are reports of labor shortages around the world, and it's creating supply chain knockoff effects all around the world. And it's causing dramatic thinking about how people invest, how companies are choosing to invest. And this was brought home to me just in the last couple of weeks in a couple of tours I participated with Mayor Ralph and with the economic development team here. We were invited to go visit Boeing's new testbed plane, where they're testing new technologies that reduce emissions and try to decarbonize aviation. And so they have this new testbed plane. They're curating different problems from suppliers all over the world. It's creating a lot of opportunities to invest from production of parts for the airplane that reduce the emissions, even incrementally, small bits over the entire air fleet. They're having to retool factories, hire new people. Well, to do that in the middle of a labor shortage is kind of an interesting conundrum, right? So I've talked about, this is a reoccurring theme for presentations to this council, is automation is something that we talked about before COVID. It's just accelerating. And it's not just because there's a labor shortage, it's also because of investments into technologies to deal with climate change. So the other tour we took recently, we were at the invitation of Cisco, which has been in Kent here for about 50 years. Huge supplier of food products, manufactured food products. They have their own fleet of trucks. And the transport vehicles are also under pressure to decarbonize, but it's also to, save, there's savings to that. They're thinking about future intent about putting solar panels on their roof. They're talking about electrifying their fleet of trucks. And we also met the individual for Cisco at a national level who is courting different truck companies to automate the truck fleet. And it was very interesting to hear that, they have a lot of open positions at $23 up to $29 an hour. They can't fill them both for just the forklift operation pallet jobs, but then even more chronic is the shortage in truck drivers. And I was just reading a news article about that in England. It's global, and a lot of companies have calculated at this point that the decline in CDLA truck driving is chronic. It's not going to come back. We're not going to start training a whole bunch of new truck drivers to fill the demand that's been created. It is an irreversible decline. And that's why you see another big news story recently, locally, PACCAR has decided to retool their factory in Renton to start deploying electrified trucks, converting from diesel to electric, which is a huge deal, just all on its own. But they're also, as we heard a presentation at the Kent Valley and at Center Point a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, from the chief technology officer from PACCAR, the tests for the autonomous trucks are doing very well. And FedEx has been deploying with PACCAR for some time now. And it's getting closer. I mean, there's a lot. I don't want to, it's always been, seems like where automation is 5 years away, then it's just another 5 years away, as the old joke was about fusion. It's 5 years away and always will be, is kind of the feeling sometimes. A lot of money's being spent, a lot of money's being invested, and it's from the top corporations in the world. And it's pretty clear that there's a widespread belief that they're not going to, what's different now, I think partly triggered by COVID, is the supply chain shortages. Part of our tour with Cisco is just hearing from people firsthand how difficult it is to keep things in stock. And that hasn't actually let up at all for them. It's, we experienced some shortages with toilet paper and everything early on in the pandemic, but they're still having a hard time keeping food in stock sometimes. And it comes down to not producing it, it's trucking it. So the risk is not just, it's a problem they can't solve just by spending a lot of money on it. That was one of the things that was asked. Like, we just raise the wages for truck drivers, we'll have a lot more truck drivers. No, we're not going to get enough truck drivers. They'd rather invest in autonomy, into robots. And so I think that's a big change that we keep talking about here as a big trucking hub where thousands are employed in trucking. Thousands are employed in trucking. There's only a few companies that are owned locally for trucking. So that's a big distinction I want to underscore. And I just want to land on something that has nothing to do at first blush with any of those preceding slides. It's just something that we're up to. It's a busy chart. But something we've been doing recently is we've been convening with Washington First Robotics, Green River College, Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee, Seattle Makerspace. And we've been talking about the NADEM property and talking about all these different entities that need either more facility space for programs that relate to robotics, entities, nonprofits who don't have headquarters anymore, or have faced challenges from COVID-19 about being able to have a facility, and their desire to reach out to the young population in Kent. And what this table is just simply getting all of that on a piece of paper and saying, where in your facility needs, where in your requirements for your facility line up where you might be able to cooperate and reduce costs, or just by being proximate to each other, co-located in a facility in Kent, how could you then just have benefits and do what you do regularly better? And so that's a discussion we're having right now. I won't say it's matured to the point where we have in writing, this is the plan, but folks from the directors of these organizations have been meeting with us for some time now, and I think they're getting closer, and they're spending some real time thinking about it with us. And this is from a week or 2 ago, 2 weeks ago rather. Spent about 3 hours at Green River College doing something called a charrette with an architect. A charrette is just a sort of facilitation, a discussion of what your needs are, with an architect to actually record and help draw it with you, and then individuals get to draw too. And it's a creative exercise. So we're at the creative stage, I would say, still. I'll have more on this in the future, but I'm linking it only because of, we've been talking for a long time about the need to invest in the types of programs that, we heard it earlier in Councilmember Dunn's presentation about Kent Ridge Robotics. It's going to be a need if you imagine a fifth grader today, what their working life's going to be like 20 years from now. The last 2 years have condensed 5 or 10 years and really quickly. So with that, just open up the questions.
All right, thank you, Bill. Very much appreciate the report. Council, any questions for Bill? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to item number 5, which is reports from council and staff. Opportunity to hear about what is being done across the region in representing Kent and our interests at many of our regional tables. I will start with PSRC. I serve on both the Operations Committee and the Executive Committee. At the Operations Committee, we passed out proposal to approve the budget recognizing Juneteenth for employees of PSRC. If you remember back, right at the end of session last year, the City of Kent moved that forward, and we actually celebrated Juneteenth as a city here this year. So PSRC, Puget Sound Regional Council, will be implementing that next year. At the Executive Committee, we had 2 major items that we talked about. The ARPA funding for transit. So there was a distribution of $901 million of American Rescue Plan funding to the region's transit agencies. So think Metro, Community Transit, Pierce Transit, Sound Transit, and the ferry system. Some robust discussion about the distribution system and what that looks like, and we will be over the next year talking about further distribution of regional transit money to make sure that agencies, the smaller agencies, have the ability to compete with the larger agencies for that funding. We also talked about the Equity Advisory Committee that PSRC is standing up, and agreed to move the membership from 15 to 20 members, making sure that we have adequate geographic and demographic representation, and specifically hoping to attract some representation from the Asian Pacific Islander communities for that committee. Several other things you saw in Bill's slide, the Eco Demonstrator slide with Boeing. That's a partnership with Boeing and Alaska Airlines. We were able to attend that meeting in a hangar at Boeing Field this last about a week ago, and we're able to learn about some of the innovations that they're using in that test format. So putting a variety of design elements, customer service features, that kind of things into a plane, and using those over a year period. So really exciting to hear about the work that Boeing is doing. I also attended a tour of the Demonstrator farm that Cedar Grove Compost has in the city of Redmond. So your compost material here in Kent goes to Cedar Grove, and they create, your compostable materials go to Cedar Grove, and they create compost. And the goal of this farm is to prove that compost is a sustainable way to farm. And they're doing that on 60 acres up in Redmond. So want to encourage everyone to keep composting what you can from your home, and know that it is going to good use and being turned into compost through Cedar Grove. So a lot of interesting things happening there. Also had the opportunity to attend the Kent Ridge Key Club meeting this last week. So about 100 students actively engaged in Key Club, the high school club for the Kiwanis, and really exciting to see our kids wanting to do service projects. One of the things that they're doing is a letter writing campaign to our seniors here in the community. So the high school students are corresponding with our residents in the senior living facilities, and really making sure that they know that there are people in the community that care about them. Winding up, I was able to drop the puck on Saturday. The Kraken played preseason game here at Shower Center, nearly sold out. It was wonderful to see people back in the building. Sadly, the Kraken did not win, but things went very smoothly as far as getting people in and out of the building, the vaccination requirements, all of those things in place, and a wonderful time had by all. With that, I am going to look to my right to our Chief Administrative Officer, Derek Matheson, for his report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Ralph. I had a little bit longer report last time, and so I'm going to balance it out tonight by saying that my written report is in the packet and we have no executive session. Thank you.
Nice. Council President Troutner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Earlier this evening, we had our Operations and Public Safety Committee meeting. We had a couple presentations, both from Chief Padilla, The first one is on our community immersion law enforcement program, which really great program. We were all anxious to hear a little bit more about this. The concept gives our officers the experience to engage with our diverse community through connections, and so entry-level officers are placed with community organizations and our underserved communities within Kent. This gives them an opportunity to learn and expand their own cultural backgrounds and connect with our community in a different way, kind of develop relationships. And all of our new hires spend 320 hours with a particular group, so kind of about 2 months. And so far, we've got at least one person who's in the program that I think will be graduating from or has graduated from the program. And the feedback has been absolutely amazing. They actually would like to keep him engaged with that particular group. And right now we have one group that's working with the City of Kent, that is the World Relief Seattle. So we're looking for additional community organizations that are willing to be a part of this. We've got new hires that we want to be able to place out there and develop these relationships within our community. It benefits everyone, and it's really going to help us be more transparent and help our community to grow together. So if there's anyone that's interested in participating, please be sure to visit the Kent website. We also had a presentation on spider technology, something that we've talked about a little bit before, but if you think of a cool mobile technology where it gives our officers an opportunity to respond with our community, it allows our officers to follow up when a call has been made to 911. They can send out surveys to get more feedback and make sure that we're responding to the community in a way that is important. And then it also can kind of close the loop. So just another tool that our officers have to engage with the community and make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone across the City of Kent. I also sit on the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice meeting. We will meet again in December. We had a meeting on October 30th. And it was a couple presentations. The first was Ending Mass Incarceration, and the other presentation was Justice for Girls Coalition of Washington. And we've heard from both those groups in the past, but this gave us an opportunity to hear from them and the challenges that they're facing in our justice system since COVID. I also sit on the Regional Transit Committee, and we have been spending the last year and a half talking about Metro's policies and updating those, something that hasn't been done for the past 6 years. So it's a huge undertaking, and a lot of work is going into it. A lot of time, my committee time is being spent there. And I am vice chair of that committee along with Chair Robertson out of Bellevue, and we are going to be meeting with King County council members to get their thoughts on the Metro policy amendments as we continue to work through this and hopefully bring it to a vote at the end of November and be able to have this long overdue project finished. And then lastly, I am also chair of the Ryan 9, which is the Watershed Ecosystem Management Committee. And our committee improves the watershed health and restores salmon habitat within the Green Duwamish and Central Puget Sound area. And last Friday, we had an opportunity as a committee to tour several big projects that are happening in South King County. The first being Downey Farmstead. So if you're driving through Kent and you've seen that project happening, super great project to be able to actually be out there on the ground and walk around with our amazing team from our Public Works Department, Melissa Dahl, who's presented to us here before, and Mike McTutis are so knowledgeable, and I was really proud to be able to have them present this project to our committee and just let us know where we are and how that project is moving along. Then we went down to tour the Lower Russell, another great project. I think it's almost $57 million in that project, fully funded. A lot of grant money comes from King County, a flood control district, and other grant monies from around the region. So we're very lucky to have this project being completed here in Kent. and I believe it's going to be finished in August of next year. So as you can recall, we're relocating a park, we're relocating the road, improving the trails, and of course, one of the other multi-benefits is improving the salmon habitat. So very excited to be able to have those two projects highlighted on the tour in Kent. We also went to the Nelson Side Channel, which is down in Tukwila, and Gilliam Creek. So it gave our committee an opportunity to see where monies that were giving to these cities and how those cities are using it to improve salmon habitat. So really fun day, and the weather ended up being great on Friday. Next, I will turn to my colleagues to see what they have been up to, and I will start with Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Council President. I serve on King County Regional Water Quality Committee, and our meeting is tomorrow at 3. And then I also chair the Parks and Human Services Committee, and our first meeting is on Thursday at 4 here in Chambers.
Looking forward to that. Thank you. Councilmember Kaur.
Thank you. I still run 3 regional committees, but we have not met in the last 2 weeks, so I don't have any updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Larmer.
Thank you. I sit on the King County Affordable Housing Committee, and we met September 30th. Not a whole lot different from our standard agenda. We did get a presentation from the Master Builders Association on recommended strategies for encouraging the building of affordable housing in the community. Again, I think I've probably covered a lot of these in my other presentations, but we did have a few statistics I wanted to share related to ADUs. There was some evidence presented that when Seattle changed and removed some of the restriction on ADUs, they saw a 112% increase in ADUs being built. And so a few other interesting facts, 58% of ADUs are rented at below market value, so it really truly is an affordable option. And actually 17% of ADUs are actually provide free housing, and that's usually a family member or a friend. But again, it's affordable to downright free housing solutions. So, and I know that is something that we have in Kent. I believe it's in our housing action plan to take a closer look at that. So there wasn't really anything I found that we weren't already looking at or investigating. So that was kind of nice and affirming that way. Another thing I thought was interesting is they talked about micro housing, and this is actually coming out of the Master Builders Association. And those are units less than 350 square feet, sometimes referred to as workforce housing or adult dormitories. But they're actually recommending that as a solution as well. And I know that I've lobbied for us to consider that as a solution in South King County as well. So nothing terribly new, but it was a good presentation to attend. And there's a deck with some great information that I'll send out to everyone. So that ends my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Larmer. Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam President. ADU, you want to what the acronym stand for people may not know?
Accessory dwelling unit. That can be everything from a backyard cottage to a basement unit or above the attic unit, something like that.
Okay. That was for the listening audience, not for me, okay? Okay, I sit on the Sound City Association as the vice chair of PIT. We have not met since our last meeting, so we will be meeting a week from tomorrow. And also, we'll be having our second ECD committee meeting on next week. So looking forward to that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, Madam President. I am a member of the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority, along with President Troutner and Councilmember Boyce. And we have not been doing a whole lot, but we do have a meeting tomorrow night at 5:30. And it's going to be via Zoom. And if you would like to participate, tune in. You can call there at 253-856-4300, 4300. Easy to remember. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas.
I did it again.
Councilmember Fincher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I serve on KCD, King Conservation District, and we were reviewing food grants. So I'm on the committee that is selecting some of the food program grants that have come through, and these are a variety of different. This time we got a lot of applications, surprising number of applications for a digester project. So making sure that, as the mayor mentioned, food waste is turned into various types of soil. Also, we had projects for an electric tractor. One of the farmers we have hadn't even seen an electric tractor before, but this electric tractor would be part of a tool lending library. And so the purpose of KCD, or King Conservation District, is to help with conservation throughout the county. So one of those ways, with a lot of small farmers, they don't have all of the tools that they could really use to help in efficient farming. And so they are able to borrow tools, which is a lot cheaper exercise for them, making them more successful. But a lot of the projects this time also considered climate and carbon dioxide emissions. So it was really interesting watching and reading through all of those applications. Anyway, we limited that list down and have sent those on for approval. With public, I'll do MID first, Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Advisory Committee. We had an interesting presentation on peer counseling, and our own peer counseling agency right here in Kent was mentioned. And a good thing about peer counseling, we may all know how to, or all love clothes, but maybe only Councilmember Thomas here knows how to sew. We all have ideas and input and can give all of the information we want about the clothes that we're going to make. But if we try to do it ourselves, even though we give them all this great input, we're going to be missing something because we don't know what it actually takes to do it. We have not lived that life. We have not walked in his shoes. He's going to have the most expertise about what it is like to live that. And so that's the peer counseling. So we had a really good presentation on that and learned quite a bit. The Arts Commission here in Kent, the Arts Commission, we have our Free to Roam exhibition still going, and so that's our online We Create app, the WeCreate.com website. This is a free exhibition where you can put anything you want online that you consider art, and it could be music, it could be dance, it could be a craft, it could be food. You put that on, and there's a contest, so there's winners at the end of each segment. So we do that about 4 or 5 times a year, and you have until the end of this month to get your submissions in. We also have the Spotlight Series, which I mentioned earlier during coming attractions and events. With that, we have a performance this coming weekend. Check out kentwa.gov/spotlight, and you should be able to get to that, or just go to the regular city website. It's kentwa.gov. And the name of that group is Collision of Rhythm, if you want to check them out and decide whether to go get a ticket or not. And then there's Public Works. We had our first Public Works Committee since going back to the committee system, and we had a report on the West Hill Reservoir and just the progress that it's making. So you can actually see the bottom now is completely covered by steel, and so it was like a little bowl. It's now a huge bowl, and this is going to be one of the towers that's over 100 feet tall. How tall is that going to be? 160 feet tall. And so it's just, we saw artist renditions of what the artwork could possibly, an idea of what the artwork could look like. The artist's artwork has not been decided yet, so that is to come. We also looked at street preservation, meaning we were repairing streets around town, and we got to see some of that just to keep them so that we can keep them in shape so that we can go longer without having to replace them. And our NPDES, which is a National Pollution Discharge requirement that is required by every company in the country, or not company in the country, by every municipality, and we always do well on ours, and we are doing well again. That is it. Long report.
And by the way,
Councilmember Fincher. Madam Mayor, that ends our reports.
and by the way, I don't sew. I do needlepoint and quilting.
Councilmember Thomas, before we move on, would you like to introduce the special guest that's in the audience?
Oh, again? Sure, I'd be glad to.
New meeting.
Hey, well, as I was just now referenced to, with me tonight, and a special guest is my grandson, Cameron Young, who is a senior at Kentwood High School, and doing quite well with his straight A's, so I'm really proud of him. His mom, Joy, is my oldest child, and we're glad to have her with us as well. So thank you both for coming tonight. Yeah.
All right.
Joy, I should tell you, Joy is in that trucking industry looking for truck drivers and bus drivers.
There is a theme there for sure. All right. As you heard, council members are very busy at work advocating for the city of Kent across the region, and I'm very, very grateful for the level of engagement that this council has. It is not common, and Kent definitely reaps the benefits of all of that work. All right, the next item on our agenda is public hearing. We have two this evening. Our first public hearing is on the 2022 Mid-Biennium budget. So I'm going to explain how our public hearing works. There is a very formal process that we have to go through. So staff will give a presentation, and then I'll invite the public to provide testimony, written statements, and other evidence. Public input must relate to the subject of the public hearing. We will have an opportunity for general public comment after the two public hearings. And council members, as a reminder, you may ask questions during the hearing. If you're here to testify on this matter or present written statements or evidence, please sign up with the city clerk over here at the front. At this point, we will go ahead and open the public hearing on the 2022 Mid-Biennium budget. The public hearing is now open, and I would like to ask Paula Painter, our finance director, to make the presentation on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor Ralph, members of City Council. Tonight is our first public hearing on the 2022 Mid-Biennium budget adjustment. The mayor presented her original budget adjustment at a special council meeting on September 28th. The proposed budget includes $420 million in expenditures citywide, of which $128.4 million is in the general fund. Within this proposed budget, we're also looking to use $1.7 million of general funds fund balance, in which most of that will be used for one-time expenses, including a litter strike team for about $1 million. In addition to this budget adjustment, what you're going to find, not only will you see the operating and capital expenditure adjustments, but you will also see ARPA funding, a grant that the city received. A portion of that will be included in this budget amendment as well. When we look at the 2022 revenue adjustments, we're spending a lot of our time focusing on the general fund. That is a primary focus of a lot of our discussions. You're going to see that ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan Act grant that the city received, we have transfers in of that money of $12.4 million. We'll see increases in taxes at $3.1 million. And then also some other adjustments to some of our fees and taxes to put them in alignment with what is happening and trending at this point in time. You will see that we will have a reduction in interest income of about $250,000 as interest rates have continued to decline and therefore not achieving what we had originally set out to earn in interest. On the expenditure side of the budget, there's adjustments of almost $17.7 million, of which within the general fund, we talked about the revenue for the ARPA funds. Again, then we have to turn around and spend it. Some of it will be spent out of the general fund, while others will be transferred out to other funds. There are some adjustments that are included based on things that have been previously approved in 2021. There's about $1.5 million in that. And then we have adjustments to salaries and benefits, any additions to operating expenditures that were approved through this process, as well as adjustments to our medical rates, central cost allocations, insurance allocations, and some other baseline adjustments. Finally, we talked about the ARPA framework. The city was awarded $28.1 million, almost $28.2 million in a grant from the American Rescue Plan Act. We have received nearly $14.1 million of this. What we are going to find within the budget, $14.85 million is included within the 2022 Mid-Biennium budget adjustment. It is the intent to come forward with a $2.85 million in requests later this fall to be able to utilize some of that funding. And then the remainder of the funding will come forth to council at later dates. The council did approve a framework in which the dollars would be spent from human services and equity, economic and community development, infrastructure, and revenue loss. And as you can see, not all of that is budgeted at this time. And that is the end of my presentation.
All right, thank you, Paula. Council, any questions for Paula? All right, seeing none, I would like now to invite the public to provide testimony, written statements, or other evidence. I do ask if you come up that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and city of residence for the record. Kim, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
I do not have anybody signed up to speak on this public hearing.
All right, thank you. With no comments given, is there a motion to close the public hearing this evening?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. The public hearing is now closed. All right, we're going to go through this exercise one more time. The next public hearing we have is on the 2022 through 2027 Capital Improvement Program. Again, Paula will give us a presentation, then I'll invite the public to provide testimony, written statements, and other evidence. Public input must relate to the subject of the public hearing, and council members may ask questions during the hearing. With that, we will open the public hearing on the 2022-2027 Capital Improvement Program, and I will turn it over to Paula for the presentation.
Thank you very much. As the mayor mentioned, this is the first public hearing on the 6-year capital improvement plan for 2022 to 2027. This is a required component of the Growth Management Act, which was passed back in 1990. And in order to do so, the city must create a 6-year capital improvement plan. This plan is going to provide for you recommended financing sources that would be used to be able to fund projects that will help to meet the public facility needs in order to help us to maintain our levels of service. This capital improvement plan is adopted by ordinance, and it updates the city's comprehensive plan. The 2022 portion of this 6-year plan is included in the Mid-Biennium budget adjustment. And looking at this plan, the 6-year plan is for $215.5 million, of which $56.3 million of it is included in the 2022 plan. The resources or the funds or revenue to be covering this is from city resources, utility resources, and other resources. And it will cover projects for both general government, parks, recreation, and community services, transportation, and utilities. And that is the end of my presentation.
All right, thank you, Paula. Council, any questions for Paula? Okay, seeing none, I would like now to invite the public to provide testimony, written statements, or other evidence. Kim, do we have anyone signed up to testify?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have 2 people signed up to testify. One is Andrew Dinsmore, and the other is Dawn Dinsmore.
Okay, Andrew, when you come up, if you could state your name and city of residence for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We will have a timer set up so you can see where you're at in the amount of time.
Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, for giving me this opportunity. My name is Andrew Dinsmore. I live in the city of Kent, on the East Hill by Lake Meridian. And in March of 2019, I was on my way to work on 256 just east of 132nd when I was struck by a hit and run and left on the side of the road until I was found by my park manager. Since then, this road has gotten, 256 has gotten busier, and excessive speed has been is seen. Other people use this road, such as walkers, joggers, bikers, and school kids. How long will it take before someone else is either hit or killed along this stretch of road? I am asking the council to allocate funds to build a walkway, a sidewalk, or pathway to make it safer for pedestrians so that someone like me isn't a victim of another hit and run. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
The next speaker is Don Dinsmore.
This is how we do double three. I also want to speak about 132nd. I'm Don Dinsmore from Kent. I also want to speak in my favorite mayor. 132nd and 256th is a death trap. My son told me that he is almost hit. He has to go to work at 5:30 in the morning, rides his bike. It's dark in the wintertime. A car hit him. He didn't know, but I've done a lot of photo investigation with the Navy for a number of years. And when I went back and checked the whole place that he was hit, it was obvious that he was not only hit, but whoever it was came over onto the side of the road to hit him. And when he hit him, he didn't have his lights on. Stop. He didn't have his lights on. And when he hit him, he got out of the car. He pushed him about 10 or 12 feet. Got out of his car, but Andrew and his bike was caught underneath the front of the car, and he backed up and pulled Andrew out from underneath. He backed up and went around him and drove off. Now, I found the guy, I found the car, but and the police were extremely good to me, but there was nothing you could do because you couldn't prove that he was in the car and so forth, or who it was. That said, I took my bike and I rode down in that area, and the first time I rode down there, down 256 to 132nd, here was a car almost hit me, coming around the corner. The corner is very bad because the corner, half the times the walk signals don't work. And coming, if you're going west on 256, as he does, the sidewalk and the bike lane emerge and take up about half the lane of a normal car. They can't fit, they have to shoot right through that area, and if they do, the one that almost hit me was making a left-hand turn, and the center has got markings and where they aren't supposed to cross over, but they do. So then you go up 256 on the south side, and there's a little sidewalk goes a little ways, then there's gravel, and the people that own that property, I don't know if it's them or the shoulder owned by the city, there's no room and it's gravel, and they've let the shrubs grow onto the bike lane. He rides a trike. There's no way that he can fit there. He has to come out in the lane, which is no lane. If you come the other way, east, in that same area in the corner, then there's a lane and a half turning lane from the Safeway coming up to 256, excuse me, and people think they are making a right-hand turn, but there's no lane there, so they have to squeeze in, and they oftentimes go over the curb.
into the bike area.
Don, I need you to wrap up, please.
Oh, man.
The 3 minutes goes by very quickly.
You know me. I can't wrap up.
That's
All right.
why I'm interrupting.
All right, I'm on my way.
Thank you.
All right, it widens out to the Meridian School. Then from the Meridian School, down the hill is the racetrack. And it goes, people are doing 60, 65 down that area. There's no way for these kids to walk on either side because it's rutted, muddy sides of each road. All the way down to the bridge, which is a laughing stock because there's no place to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll call you at home.
All right. Thank you. All right, Kim, do we have anyone else signed up to speak?
I do not.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The public hearing is now closed. All right. Thank you both for coming and testifying on the public hearing for our 2022-2027 Capital Improvement Program. All right. The next item on our agenda is public comment. The public comment period is your opportunity to speak to the council and mayor on issues that relate to the business of the city of Kent or an agenda item the council will consider at this meeting. Comments do not relate to the business of the city of Kent are not permitted, and additionally, the state of Washington prohibits people from using public comment period to support or oppose a ballot measure or a candidate for office. With that, Kim, if you could call your speaker.
Thank you. I just have one person signed up to speak today, and it's TJ Peterson on Strategic Homelessness Plan of Kent.
All right, if you could state your name and city of residence for the record, and we will start the 3-minute timer.
TJ Peterson from Kent, been here over 30 years. I want to start this off with a little context. I want to thank Steve Hunter at the Kent Reporter for writing about my friends. Not everybody obviously knows about this. I was talking to a counselor the other day, just heard about this, didn't know why I was here. She also didn't really even know there was a Kent Strategic Homeless Plan, and it touches on this. 35-year-old Covington man was sentenced to 56 years for killing 2 homeless people in 2016 in Kent. My friend Louisa Campos and Robert Diaz, they both helped me when I was out in the streets when the city wouldn't. Shaw killed Louisa Campos on August 12th at a transient camp. She was not a transient, Bob was not a transient. They were long-term tenants of this city. Bob managed Burger King for 10 years over on Meeker Street. Y'all probably ate at his place back in the day. I'm going to use these words because if I do it in my words, it's going to get salty. In committing these murders, the defendant, Bradley Shaw, selected as victims some of society's most vulnerable citizens. 2 homeless individuals who had no gates to keep intruders out, no doors to lock, no protection against an armed and trained marksman, fixated on killing them. Moreover, in the killing of Campos and fleeing, Shaw returned to the scene to eliminate witnesses, including Diaz. We called him SpongeBob. SpongeBob was a great man, uncle, good people. According to documents, after drinking alcohol, shot Campos multiple times in the back, and including in the back of the skull in front of a group of horrified witnesses. Some of these people to this day are still in the woods, traumatized, haven't had any mental services. Homeless services in this Kent is a farce. He'd walked away nonchalantly, drove up to Bellingham to split a 12-pack of beer with friends without telling him what he had done. Shaw then drove back to the scene. After the police took Louisa off the scene, it left Robert Diaz, SpongeBob, at the scene. Didn't even clear the scene. That's when he killed Diaz in a similar manner to his execution of Campos, down to the bullet in the back of the skull. A year later, Shaw confessed to friends. Kent police arrested Kent Shaw on August 12th. I really want to get into this here a minute now. Shaw described the details of the shooting. He had been in a gas station and cut in line. Said he was drunk and some people present objected to him cutting in line. Somebody was trying to do well for the city. Afterwards, Shaw followed that person, reportedly Campos. That was Louisa. Louisa was tough. She wasn't going to let people take advantage of people. The next night, Shaw went to the homeless camp where Campos Shaw was in a dispute. Campos got in his face. Of course, Louise would have kicked his ass. Shaw was a garbage human. Campos got in it. Shaw then shot Campos 3 times in the head and the body, then told his friends he went back the next night looking for witnesses. Saw a guy squatting there, holding a baseball bat. That was SpongeBob. He was looking to take care of Louise's property to get back to her family, her kids. He had no safe place to go the night after that murder. Diaz was shot in the head and the hand. Campos and Diaz were shot with the same weapon, a .45 caliber gun. Shaw used that weapon in the shooting. It had been taken by the Kent police when he was arrested for DUI on January 30th of 2017, 6 months after the investigation. Nobody connected. So the Kent police already had the gun. Yeah. Shaw then worried that the police would use his DNA to link him to the crime scene. It's not a chance because they were busy chasing homeless people around the neighborhood, thinking this was a drug crime related to homelessness. Still sweeping camps. Prior to his arrest, Shaw reportedly told witnesses he was contemplating fleeing to Ireland. Shaw claimed self-defense at the trial. Let me flip the script real quick.
I need you to
I'll wrap this up. If this would have been a homeless person that killed 2 people from a privileged family, yes, Bradley T. Shaw came from a privileged family out here in Covington, very privileged. If the script would have been flipped, we wouldn't have heard another word about it. There's still people out tonight. The Kent Strategic Homeless Plan. What are the markers? How has it changed anything? Is this just platitudes on paper that people did work and doesn't go anywhere? Maybe this is a common thread. We need a place for people to go, a safe place to protect them from the criminals that the police in the city will not do. We need new leadership on the council. This is a policy issue.
TJ, I need you to wrap it up. Thank
That's all I've got to say. I'll be back.
Thank you.
As long as my friends are outside in danger.
All right. Kim, do we have any additional speakers signed up?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. Item number 8 on our agenda is the consent calendar. This is a compilation of work that the council has done through the committee process. We have items A through G. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve consent calendar items A through G.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Item number 9 is other business. We do not have any this evening. Item number 10 is a bid award for Kent Police Headquarters renovation project. And joining us this evening is Will Moore. Is this your first trip to council, Will?
My first trip.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council President, and council members. Thank you for having me here tonight for the first time. I think I've met a few of you, but for those of you that I've yet to meet, I'm looking forward to working with you. I am the new facilities superintendent for the city of Canton. I've been here about 3 months now. I'm here tonight to present the police headquarters renovation. Over the last year and a half, we've been working with Meng Strazara, our architect, to get to this point today. This project is to convert the existing men's locker room into a new training room. The upstairs mezzanine will then turn into the new men's locker room and expand the lunchroom and break room in addition to a nice outdoor meeting area. There was a great turnout for this project actually at the walkthrough, and we received 6 bids for this project. The apparent low qualified bidder was Christensen Incorporated. That came in at $636,000. The engineer's estimate was $650,000 to $750,000. So we're happy to see that, given the rise in construction costs, that we came in on budget as expected. And tonight, I'm recommending that we award the bid to Christensen Incorporated. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Will? Councilmember Boyce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No question, but I just want to say that I will be supporting this motion here. Councilmember Shaw and I had the opportunity to go and walk the area after our workshop, and from what we were looking at earlier compared to what we're doing now, it's a much needed area for our police officer, which is give them opportunity to have a expanded break room as well as a facility where they can work out, remove the lockers and so on. So this is a step in the right direction, something that's much needed. So just want to say this is something that I will be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's nice to meet you, Will. Yes, I went and looked at it with Councilmember Boyce, and I agree with him. It's a much better use of the space, for sure.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Will? All right, then a motion would be in order.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to move award the Kent Police Headquarters renovation. Where are my glasses? I don't know where. Let me try it. Renovation Kristen Inc. General contract in amount not to exceed $700,236,000. Did I say that right? And authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents subject to the final term and condition acceptable to the park director and city attorney.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. And I know it's been a couple of months, but welcome, Will. I will tell you all, he's been doing fantastic work already in our aging facilities that are in need of a lot of help. So I am very, very grateful for all the work that you've already done and looking forward to all the work that still needs to be accomplished.
Oh, thank you to be here. Glad to get this first one under my belt. And good evening. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Item number 11 is executive session, and we do not have one this evening. So that brings us to the end of our council meeting for October 5th, 2021. Thank you, everyone, for your conversation and participation this evening. And with that, we are adjourned.